last stop. It was just after 11 p.m., and Laura was standing on the cold platform at the Chicago Blue Line, waiting for the last train to the suburbs. She'd been working late at her graphic design job, and the city felt extra empty at this hour. The fog hung thick in the air, the city lights struggling to pierce through it. When the train finally arrived, she was grateful. It had been a long day, and the thought of getting home and curling up in bed was all she could focus on. The train doors opened with a familiar hiss, and Laura stepped inside. The car was nearly empty, just a few people scattered around. A man in a wrinkled suit, a teenage girl lost in her phone, and an older woman sitting near the far end, clutching a shopping bag like it was the last thing she had in the world. Laura picked a seat by the window and pulled out her sketchbook, trying to relax. The train hummed along as it pulled away from the station, and she could hear the occasional rattle of the tracks. The man in the suit looked half asleep, his head drooping against the window. The girl was still glued to her phone, her fingers tapping furiously. The old woman was muttering something to herself, too quiet for Laura to make out. The lights flickered once, twice, then went out completely. Laura didn't panic. The trains on the Blue Line had electrical problems sometimes, and it was usually back on in a second. But when the lights came back on, something felt off. The man in the suit was gone. It wasn't just that he was sleeping or had moved to another car. He was simply gone. His seat was empty, but it was like he'd never been there at all. Laura glanced around, wondering if anyone else noticed. The teenage girl was still absorbed in her phone, scrolling away, oblivious to the world. The old woman, however, was staring at Laura, her eyes wide open, unblinking, like she was waiting for something. Something important. A chill crept up Laura's spine. She turned back to the window. The familiar sights of Chicago blurred as the train moved faster, faster than it should have. She glanced up again, and that's when she noticed the fog. It wasn't just outside the train anymore. It was seeping in through the windows, thickening, crawling across the floor of the car. The train slowed and Laura glanced up, expecting to see a station. But there was nothing, just more fog. The platform was empty and the train didn't stop. "Excuse me, sir," Laura called out to the conductor through the intercom. "We missed the stop." No response as she tried again. Nothing. The train lurched forward, the screeching of the metal on metal making her jump. The girl was gone now, too. Laura's stomach twisted. There was no sign of her. She was just gone. The only person left was the old woman who hadn't moved. She was staring at Laura now, her face eerily calm. "Where did they go?" Laura asked, her voice shaking. The woman didn't respond right away. She just smiled, a wide, unsettling smile that stretched too far. Then she whispered, "They're already home." A cold sweat ran down Laura's back. The train sped on, faster than before, and Laura's mind raced. She needed to get out. She needed to get off. But the doors wouldn't open. She ran to them and slammed her fists against the glass. Nothing. Suddenly, the old woman wasn't sitting across from her anymore. She was standing right in front of Laura, her face too close, her grin even wider. And in the woman's hands was a shopping bag. But it wasn't just any bag. It was Laura's bag, the one she'd left in her apartment this morning. How could she have it? The lights flickered again. When they came back on, the woman was gone. The train was speeding through a tunnel now, the windows completely dark, and the floor beneath Laura's feet began to feel wrong. The train screeched to a halt and the doors opened. Outside was nothing but a platform in complete darkness. But there was something moving out there. Shadows shifting, stretching, growing. Figures in the fog. Laura stepped out onto the platform, her heart racing, but the ground felt unstable beneath her, like it wasn't real. And as she turned to look back at the train, she saw the last figure. Familiar faces staring back at her from the windows. The others. They were smiling too, but their eyes, they were empty. And then a voice, a whisper. "Don't take the last train." Laura spun around, but the platform had no end. There was no escape. The train doors slid shut behind her, and in the reflection of the windows, she saw it. The same old woman, smiling, watching, waiting. Thank you for joining me in the shadows. If you enjoyed the journey, please subscribe and share a Creepy Vault 45 with friends. Because some chills are best when we're not alone.